Episode 125 of Australia's #1 marketing show. Listen in as I have a fireside chat with the founder of the Content Marketing Institute of the World, Joe Pulizzi. You want marketing gold? This is Marketing Gold.
Welcome to the Small Business Big Marketing Show, where successful small business owners share their secrets to take your marketing to the next level. Now here's your host, Tim Reid.
G'day everyone and welcome back to Australia's #1 marketing show. I'm your host, Timbo Reid. You are a motivated small business owner. We as a collective are brought to you by the very, very good folk at netregistry.com.au who help get your business sorted online. Big show today. Always a big show. They just get bigger. Very excited about this. Joe Pulizzi from the Content Marketing Institute. This is a man ahead of his time. More on that in a minute. I am also going to share with you a little insight that has come from hosting my deep dive mastermind over the last few weeks. Also want to welcome everyone from the Flying Solo Institute, all those solopreneurs doing it out there by themselves. And we've got a little bit more to cover. So, what I wanted to say with Deep Dive Mastermind, it's a mastermind that I run every Tuesday, 10 o'clock, 10 motivated small business owners sit around the virtual table via webinar, and we as a combined group belt out marketing ideas, tips and tricks dedicated to grow their business. And one of the things that's come to mind, or not so much come to mind, that has come to the forefront is this concept of opportunity cost in our marketing. And what I mean by that is we've got to look at all the marketing that we do in our business, no matter how big or how small, and ask ourselves, what is the opportunity cost of doing that? So an extreme example would be doing a letterbox drop in your local area, spending your $1,000, $2,000, $10,000. I spoke to a small business recently who's spending $15,000 on a letterbox drop and saying, okay, well, are you getting a return on that investment? Because you want to, for every dollar you spend, you want to get multiples back. Secondly, what else could you be doing with that money? And it's a really pertinent point given this whole area of content marketing, which we're going to talk about very shortly. There are so many opportunities out there for the small business owner these days, like you and I, to do great marketing. Yeah. And often it doesn't cost a lot. There is an investment of time, but not so much money. So if you as a small business owner right now are spending a lot of dough on a marketing initiative that you've been doing for a long time, may or may not be working as well as you want it to, then start to investigate these other marketing opportunities, particularly around content marketing, and see what they cost. Because you might find that they cost a lot less in terms of money. Yeah, there may be a greater time investment, but in the end, you save money by doing a cheaper form of marketing and you get better results in the long term, yeah? This content marketing thing we're going to talk about today, it is a marathon, not a sprint, as Joe explains. So I just wanted to share that concept of opportunity cost with you and maybe ask yourself, what is the opportunity cost of me doing the current marketing that I'm doing? It's a really interesting question. And sometimes, think what you've always thought, do what you've always done, get what you've always got. It's time to challenge the status quo, my friends, and that's why you're listening to Small Business Big Marketing. Now, in terms of opportunity cost, Net Registry do make this show possible. So what I would suggest is that you get on and have a look at what Net Registry have to offer to the small business owner like you. Basically, they're there to get your online marketing sorted. So anything from SEO, domain name registration, website hosting, website design, website development, you name it. They are very good at it. And I know there are a number of listeners using their services, a number of Deep Dive Mastermind members using their services, and really happy that they have, because it takes the pain away from online marketing, which can kind of sometimes be painful if you don't know what you're doing. So let's talk Joe Pulizzi, content marketing guy who started the Content Marketing Institute a number of years ago. And boy, was he ahead of his time. Content marketing this year, 2013, I reckon it's hitting its straps. We are starting to see a massive, massive attention going to content marketing versus other forms of traditional marketing. What is content marketing? You're going to find that out in the discussion I have with Joe, but you are listening to a form of content marketing right now with my podcast. And I've been doing that for 3.5 years. And basically it's a way of sharing your knowledge and pulling people towards you as opposed to pushing big advertising or direct marketing messages on them, sales messages on them. Joe's a content marketing evangelist. He's passionate about the color orange. You'll hear why in a minute. And he's one of the leading thought leaders behind the content marketing and social media movement of the last few years. I was so excited to be able to speak to him because he does explain it in beautifully simple terms. He's actually in Sydney next week, so it might be a bit late to attend that event, but he's in Sydney week commencing March 4 and running a 3-day content marketing event, which he's going to run again next year, and I hope to be speaking at. Enough of that. Let's hear what Joe and I had to say about the new phenomenon that is content marketing. Joe Pulizzi, founder of the Content Marketing Institute. Welcome to Small Business Big Marketing.
Tim, I'm happy to be on. Thanks for having me.
Now, Joe, quick question up front. On your Skype message, it says thinking of the color orange. What's that about?
Oh, man, I started wearing orange when I launched the business in 2007. And, well, I'll tell you a quick story because it's interesting and there's actually a business point behind it.
Okay.
I was about my 5th keynote speech, and the person that organized the event said, Joe, we'll have you come in and do the speech, but you have to wear black. I'm like, that's fine. You're paying me to come. I'm happy to wear black. I'll do that. Wore black. It was videotaped, and there were a number of people at the event. This was actually in Brussels, Belgium.
Nice.
And then I got a bunch of response after, and it was everybody was going, Joe, where's the orange? Why didn't you wear the orange? And I never noticed that I'd sort of branded myself in this orange attire. And from that point on, I said, boy, this could be a business advantage because you get noticed nobody was wearing orange. Nobody still wears orange.
Yeah.
So from that moment on, I kind of went over the psychotic edge on orange, and everything we have in the business and then my own personal wardrobe is orange. And I really feel that it helps our business and our brand.
Well, funny story, but also quite seriously, I mean, every business should own a colour. It just that's what the big guys do. You look to any big brand, McDonald's own red and yellow, quote banks, the ANZ Bank in Australia owns a particular blue, it just makes sense. And it's just appealing to one of the many senses that we have in terms of building our brand.
So orange is the color we try to own.
Do you know my colour?
But every day. What's yours?
Yeah, 6'4", big guy, pink.
Oh,
hey, yeah,
that's the perfect color for you, not for me.
I'm a tough guy. No one will look at me and go, "Hey, Timbo, what are you wearing pink for?"
They're not gonna mess with you.
Nah. Now,
I'm 5'9". I'm not wearing pink anywhere. I'm sorry.
Cool. Well, pink and orange, they would never be seen together. That would be a crime, a fashion crime. Now, Joe, how do you define content marketing?
I think for somebody that is new and never heard about it before, I always say it's acting like a publisher, acting like a media company. So what that means is instead of creating advertisements and display and in what I would call interruptive type marketing around somebody else's content or event, what we want to do is create our own compelling, relevant, and valuable content to attract people to come to us so that at some point we become sort of that trusted advisor to them. And when they're ready to buy, they buy from us because we've been giving them all this fantastic information for so long.
Yeah, I love that. I feel that. Been doing it for a while with the old podcast. What then, to that point, what's the opposite of content marketing?
I don't even know if there's an opposite. I don't know if there's a kryptonite. I mean, I guess if you said that, pure display advertising would be, but I think content marketing gets along with everything. It's like peanut butter and jelly, makes everything a little bit better if you use it. So yeah, some people say, oh, Joe, does that mean I need to stop advertising? It says no. But the fact is, if you want to be found in Google for search engine optimization, if you want to drive leads in any kind of significant way online, and if you want to have anything of interest to say on social media, that has to start with what your content strategy is. It has to start with compelling and interesting stories. And because the consumer buys so differently than the way they did in the past, and they have a zillion options to get their information, if you don't have something compelling for them, they're going to ignore you. So we've got
it's like conversation. If you got nothing to say, they're not. No one who wants to talk to you.
Well, it's so interesting. I mean, when Twitter was big, I mean, I started on Twitter in 07, 08, and still Twitter's new to a lot of people. But people said, Joe, explain to me about Twitter. I said, well, you go into a cocktail reception. Let's say you're going into a cocktail reception, and you get on a table and start screaming at the top of your voice how awesome you are. I said, that's advertising thinking. That's old way of thinking. Hey, I'm great. I'm awesome. The real way that we need to think is, look, our customers don't care about us. They don't care about our products. They don't care about our services. They care about themselves. So you need to give information that's going to help them help you. So if you're on Twitter, you want to create interesting information so they follow you, and you're not going to put your press release on Twitter because nobody's going to care.
Good analogy. Can I just take you back the opposite of content marketing? You said content marketing gets along with everything, and I agree with that. When I talk about content marketing, I do say that, like I always talk push versus pull. And if content marketing is pulling people towards you by having interesting things to share and showing that you're an opinion leader in your industry, then the opposite of that is push. And push to me is pure advertising. Now, I love it when I see an ad in the magazine that has some content marketing integrated into it. For example, call to action, go and visit our YouTube channel for a review of this product. But pure advertising, I would say, would be the opposite of content marketing.
I think that's a good way to put it. I would also kind of expand on that and say, look at the content that you create. I mean, I guess you could say pure promotional content versus educational and entertaining content. I mean, those are quite opposite. And if you are any company of any size, the most of the content assets you have, most of the stories, most of the assets are about you. They're about all your products and services. And the fact is that those are fine, by the way. I mean, we need those, but what are you going to do the 99% of the time when your customers aren't ready to buy? That's only for a very small portion of the buying cycle. And everything else, you need to help educate your customers, take them to the next level, find out what their pain points are, answer their questions. Those are the types of things that content marketing's for. So I think you're right. You're exactly right. If you look at interruption versus non-interruption marketing, I think that's what you're saying. But I would take it a step deeper, because people are saying, oh, I do content marketing. I said, you do? Well, what do you have? What kind of content? It's like, oh, we got this fantastic brochure all about how all the good stuff we're doing. And I'm like, well, that's not really content marketing. That's just more like shoving in somebody's face and like, are you ready to buy? Would you buy this from me? That's not going to help I was trying to think of what's going to help your customers get better jobs, live better lives. That's the type of content we want to talk.
It's a bit like, I'm not one for drawing sexual analogies, Joe, but it's a bit like foreplay content marketing, isn't it?
Hey, you brought it up.
Well, is it?
It is. I mean, it's so fun. I mean, even with social media, I love to talk to companies that say, hey, this social media thing's not working for me. I haven't sold anything. I said, well, you expect to get the sale right away? And that's really that's really where you see that analogy that you just brought work really well, because it's all about engaging them, giving them stuff over a long period of time. And you know what? When they are ready to have sex, from your standpoint,
Joe, don't be disgusting.
They're going to go with you because of the fact that you've been, turning them on to that.
Oh, here we go. That's not going to leave the rest of this interview, is it? At this point, our listeners are going, what? Give me examples of content marketing. That's easily answered. The Content Marketing Institute have got a fantastic, it's called the Content Marketing Playbook, 42 ways to connect with customers, But examples are, well, you're listening to a form of content marketing right now, which is podcasting. We've got blogs, we've got books, there's forums, there's webinars. Give me three more, Joe.
Oh boy, white papers. You can do print magazines, print magazines, print newsletters. And could you do a customer event or a prospect event?
Yep.
I mean, all the social media channels are forms of content. And even if you look at offsite content, like guest blogging is very, very popular to make sure that you look like experts, not only on your own sites, but on other people's sites. But I guess what I would do, Tim, is I like to take people a step back from the channels itself, because I think people get the channels, but when we talk with most companies, they jump right to the channels. Like they'll say, Joe, I want to do a blog, or I want to have fantastic Twitter content, or what I want to do this thing on Facebook, or I want to launch a video series on YouTube. All, tactical forms of content marketing. But we want to take them a step back and say, ask the question why, not what. You don't want to jump to what. Let's figure out why. Why are we creating this content in the first place? And I always talk about something called the content marketing mission statement. And that whole idea is, why are you creating, what are you doing for that customer to help them in their job, in their life in some way? What is that content about? Just like a media company. If you were, let's say, the leading trade magazine in your industry, what would be your editorial mission? So I want you to come up with that first, what that editorial mission is. And then once you have that and you tie it, by the way, this is content marketing, so you have to tie it to your business objectives, what you're actually trying to do. And that's sort of the secret sauce, that editorial mission combined with your business objectives. Then you can say, where would this type of story be told best? How do we tell that story in a blog? How do we tell it in a content platform? How do we tell it in a webinar? How do we tell it in an ebook? I mean, those types of things.
You are singing from the same songbook, because one of the things I talk about a lot is, you might need to be on Twitter, you might need a website, you might need a podcast, but let's just put that aside and figure out, you talked about the why, I just talk about the message. What have you got to say? And let's figure out your through line. So my through line for this show is small business marketing tips and tricks. And so every bit of content I create has to come back to that.
Oh, yeah. So you have, that's your mission statement.
That's my mission. That's my editorial. What did you call it? Editorial mission.
I talked to a CMO the other day of a fairly large company and said, Joe, we have 40-some thousand fans on Facebook, and we've sort of plateaued. How do we get more fans? And my first question, which seemed like an obvious question, was, well, why are you on Facebook? And she didn't have the answer to that.
Yeah, it's amazing, isn't it?
So you know what? You might not even need fans. You might not need followers on Twitter. Those might be indicators that don't help you drive your business in any way. We need to figure out what the message is, to your point, why it's going to help our business, and how we're going to help the customer when their buying process ultimately get to that point where they're going to become a customer or become a better customer for you. Yeah.
Gosh, that's true. Why exactly? So many businesses just launch into that medium and forget about why. And when you know the why, when you know why you're on Facebook, it actually makes it easy. For example, it makes it easy to decide what to put on your Facebook.
That's exactly right. Well, here's a good exercise, since you're all about tips and tricks. So we got to give people some tips.
Yep.
I would say, make a list of all the channels that you're in right now. So every channel that you use, all the social media channels, all the print channels, all the online channels, everything, make a list of them, and then simply answer that question. Why are you on those channels? I will guarantee you that you've never done that you are using channels that you don't know why you're using them.
Yep.
And then you can make a decision about whether to continue to use it, to adapt that. Maybe you're doing just fine with it, or maybe you need to redirect some of those resources to doing something else.
I love it. Joe, content marketing, like business owners have been writing books for years. Okay. So in that sense, content marketing's not new. So what's changed these last, I'd almost say months in Australia, but what's changed these last few years for you to start a business called the Content Marketing Institute?
Well, there's a couple things. And first of all, it starts with the consumer. The consumer, take it back, at the dawn of the web, right? 97, 98, 99, 2000, before social media. That's when we really started getting all these new channels. Before that, there were like 7 major channels that you had. And now, if you look at all the channels that people can engage in content, and let alone just look at television today, there's like literally thousands online, offline network of different channels, topics that they could get to. Then multiply that by radio and podcasts and social media and everything. They're like, wow, you almost become overwhelmed by the number of choices. What's happened then is that consumers they're not tuning out content because they're engaging in more content than ever before, but they're being very selective. So it's it's harder than ever before to get our message of, that display billboard type message in front of somebody, because they're going to tune you out if it's not helpful to them right then and there. I think that is the biggest thing that we've seen. And that means that, the book that you created years ago has to be a fantastic book today. And you have to build relationships with people online and offline and throughout, so they'll at least be able to look up when that message and that content comes their way. Yeah. So it's just a lot more difficult to go forward with. And that's why, we were talking before, content marketing is a marathon, not a sprint. If you need a reaction to your marketing in the next couple days, please, for the love of God, don't invest in content marketing. Go buy yourself a paid campaign. Get reaction right away. Flood the market with your messages off of it. It's going to cost you a lot of money to do it, but in front of them however you can. But if you have the time and you want to build relationships over time with those people, you can do it the right way, and then become their, get on their selected channel list of the type of content they engage with. Let's say you're going to do an e-newsletter. Well, shoot, there's a million spam e-newsletters that your customer is going to delete a day or not even pay attention to. How do you become the one that they actually open? It's got to be pretty darn good stuff. It can't be. So that's the difference.
And I'm seeing what I've observed doing this podcast now for 3.5 years, just in the last 6 months, the amount of colleagues and friends of friends who are starting to get podcasts out there, the amount of people that I know who are now publishing a book, like a real book, hardcover book, the amount of blogs that are starting, the amount of people opening up forums, whatever it may be, it's increasing at a rapid rate. Hence, clearly content marketing it's the new black, Joe. And what I'm noticing is that the quality just ain't there,
No, to that point, you're exactly right. And we could probably talk about quality forever, but there's two things. One is this whole thing that's going on with the consumer, but the other thing is there's no barriers to entry in publishing anymore. I mean, I've been in publishing for 13 years. When I started in the business in 2000, it was still quite pricey to figure out your circulation development. If you're going to publish, let's say print and all the production that goes into that and the editorial and the design and the distribution and everything, it was very, very costly. Well, today it costs literally nothing to produce a piece of content and get that publicized in some way. To your point, that means that we don't necessarily companies don't put the time and energy to make sure that it's an epic piece of content. And it just, it just is trash. It's stuff that's not going to get through. It's not going to help your business, and it's not going to help the customer. And so we have lots of really horrible content out there, and it's getting in the way of the good content trying to get through.
Yeah, big time. One of the things I say to clients and listeners, Joe, is that, I'll go back a step. One of the observations I make of small businesses in regards to content is they think, oh my God, it's got to be a Hollywood production. If I'm going to do video, it's got to be a Hollywood production. If I'm going to do a podcast, what's the best mic to get? If I'm going to write a book, it's like, oh, how do I do that? And they get caught up in that, what I call the Hollywood production syndrome versus the quality of the content. I think there's a balance. Do you agree? And if so, where do you see that balance living between production and quality of content?
I think it actually depends on the medium, in my opinion. First of all, it's almost a no-brainer. It has to be good and interesting and helpful content. So so you have to start there. So if you good content, then just look at how good the quality has to be. And I think if you look at what's popular on YouTube, I think what we found is that actually substandard video passes in a lot of cases. What doesn't pass is it has to be good audio.
Correct.
Frustrated if they can't hear something. So if you're going to invest in something, I would say, well, make sure that your audio first, because video is secondary, even when it comes to a video. People don't understand that kind of how that works. Mm-hmm. If you're looking at, book production, I mean, if you can say, hey, maybe Create Space on Amazon is okay, and I don't have to take a step up, which might be Lightning Source or something, or actually producing it with a traditional book publisher, which is always still an option, but not taken up by as many as you used to in the past. So I guess the first thing is, hey, figure out what that story is, what that message is, and then you can figure out, and you can always test and go. I mean, once you start with your content strategy, you can evolve it every day, every second of the day. Once you get that feedback, put something out there. Doesn't have to be perfect. It's never going to be perfect. Get that feedback and then figure out where you need to adapt.
So true. Now, at this point in time, and by the way, listeners, I'm speaking to Joe Pulizzi, who is the founder of the Content Marketing Institute.com. Go and have a look at it because it is a very, very good source of content if you are looking at content marketing. Joe, listeners at this point in time are going, you know what? And they're, even before this interview, if they're a long time listener to the show, they're probably already going, got to get a blog, got to get the podcast. Okay, I'm going to get a podcast and I'm an accountant and I'm going to interview people and express my opinions via podcast about creating financial wealth for people who earn over $100,000, and that's my editorial mission, and I'm right there. And then they go, but what if I give all my knowledge away, all my IP away? Can you give too much away, Joe?
Well, some people would disagree with me, but I haven't talked to too many companies that would give the far, it's not, I don't believe it's an issue. Obviously, if you have some things where legal in your company, however big your company is, says, please, for the love of God, don't share this. Hey, I get it. Don't share it. But it's usually an issue. This is usually not a legal issue. This is usually we think, we have a process that is just so unique, and we have a product that's so unique. And I think the truth is that no, you don't.
No.
You don't. Anything that's any more special than anyone else. I mean, I'm a big fan of Don Schultz. Don Schultz is the author of Integrated Marketing Communications. I've always been a great fan of his, and he's been saying this for 20 years. Look, a competitor can literally copy everything that we have. And you know what? They probably know all about us. They already know our secrets. So all the things that we think are secrets, they already know it. The only way that we can differentiate ourselves is on the way we communicate. And I completely buy into that.
Yep.
So how communicate can be the competitive difference. And I'll throw this out as well, because I just did a speech for a bunch of consultants who are the worst, by the way. They think that, in the consulting business, they always think they have some proprietary process. And what I always say this is, look, if you don't give this thing away, somebody else is going to, and they're going to get all that attention. So let's say that you do it and you start getting more attention, more people start following you, you really start positioning yourself well, and oh my goodness, one of those people actually takes that tip and uses it for themselves. And you know what you say? You say, thank you, because that's business you don't want.
Yep.
You want that kind of business. You don't want to do it yourself. What you want is somebody that comes to you and says, oh my goodness, this is an amazing answer. I want to follow this expert wherever they go, and I can't do this, or I don't want to do this myself because I'm not good at it, and I'm going to hire them to do it. That's the way that.
And I think too, what it comes to, I completely agree with what you said there, Joe. And I think it comes down to the end of the day, people buy from people. I've said it before. If you listen to every one of my podcasts, if you listen to every one of my blogs, and if you've been to a few of my keynotes, you don't need me, but people still employ me.
Very, 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 very true. Well, I think that's the one good thing that we've seen that's happened with social media too, is because you've gotten closer to people than ever before. We can actually respond and talk to literally everyone in the world now. And if you got LinkedIn or Facebook or Twitter or whatever, so it's pretty incredible. And we have that opportunity to build that expertise. And if you don't give away really helpful content, I don't know what else.
Oh, I lost you there for a minute, Joe. You there?
Yeah, I'm still here.
Oh, it must have been me. Now, Joe, what this is it's kind of a general question, because clearly the listeners of my show are from all sorts of industries, but I'm really keen for them to get an understanding of what are some of the easiest forms of content marketing and what are some of the more popular forms of content marketing. General question, I know, but what do you got there?
I wouldn't say the easiest. Maybe you could make a case for it. I think for a small business, the most effective tool to use that, in my opinion, would be the blog. I mean, a blog is just a tool. It's not a strategy, but it integrates really well with search. It integrates really well with social media. There's all kinds of templates out there to help you today. It doesn't cost a lot to get going. And you can integrate a video, slide share, podcast, anything into that blog. So you really need a platform, or you need a magnet sometimes. A lot of people call it a hub and spoke model, where your hub is your blog, and then you have all these spokes going out and bringing people in through your podcasts and different social media distribution channels that you have, and could be your e-newsletter or your print newsletter, but they all funnel back into that blog. And a blog is, at least according to our research, is used by about 75% of the businesses out there in one way or another. Now, here's the issue, Tim. You look at most of those blogs. So let's say that 3 out of 4 companies have a blog. If you look at IBM research, they will say that 85% of corporate blogs have 5 or less posts. So what that means is that we're all really, really good at starting blogs.
Oh, yeah.
But we're horrible at continuing on.
Yeah.
You don't understand that content marketing, the success of content marketing, has most to do with consistency than almost anything else.
Marathon, not a sprint. Well, it's like social media. You know, how many times do you go to someone's Facebook page or Twitter and, you know, wow, the last update was 3 months ago. You know, again, content marketing, let's talk about money versus time. Content marketing is not an expensive, from a dollar point of view, marketing strategy, but there ain't no thing as a free lunch. So what are you trading? You're trading money for time. And, you know, if you're going to go down the path of a blog or a podcast or writing a book or an e-newsletter, then you really got to commit to it and make it part of what you do each week. You got to diarize it.
That's exactly right. And the other thing is, a lot of people listening to this might say, you know, Joe and Tim, I'm not a good storyteller. I'm not a good writer. I'm not a good podcaster, whatever the case is. But I don't want to throw out to them that it has to be you. There are a lot of very successful small businesses out there that hire in journalists, editors, and other experts to help them tell that story better. That's been done forever. I mean, people have been outsourcing content like this forever. Now, personally, I think you should do it yourself if you can do it, because you learn so much more and you can understand kind of your story, especially as a business owner. But if you can't do it and you want to do an interview, let's say a Q&A email back and forth, or get somebody on the phone that can help you shape that story, not have a problem with that at all. You figure out what's the best use of your time and resources, and that makes the most sense.
You look at some of these celebrity chef guys. I don't know. Do you get Jamie Oliver over in the States?
Sure, the Naked Chef.
Yeah, the Naked Chef. So, like, even him now, he's for me, he's right up there. I put him right up on the top shelf in terms of content marketing. There he is in the kitchen in front of the camera. There is someone behind the camera that he is talking to, and she or he is leading the conversation with him. So, you know, like, even those guys, you know, not even those guys have people who help them create content. You don't have to do it all yourself. One of the things that I suggest to my clients, Joe, and often when I'm giving a keynote, is I suggest to people go and print this playbook of the Content Marketing Institute out, 42 different ways of creating content marketing. Literally flick through it and stop on a page or two. Every page is a different form of content marketing, listeners. Just choose one that resonates with you. If you see the video page and you go, oh, hate staring down the barrel of a camera, then keep flicking and you might get to another page that requires you to write or to record into a microphone or something, and just choose one that resonates with you.
That's right. You're not going to do all of them, right?
No, exactly.
Hopefully you'll put most of your time into one of them, and you can integrate a lot of the other ones, or maybe the blog is your base and you could leverage social media off of that. Look at Gary Vaynerchuk. He did the whole thing on his video shows. He didn't do, he wasn't typing a lot. He was just getting in front of that camera and doing his thing. You know, you're doing a podcast. Yep. I tend to like doing a blog, but then we integrate a lot into that blog. Like, I love SlideShare. I love integrating video into the blog, but the blog becomes the centerpiece. So, figure out where you feel the most comfortable, because what's great about today is there's so many choices and there are no barriers to entries. You can just pick your poison as long as you understand what your strategy is first.
Give me an example, Joe. You've mentioned SlideShare a few times. It's on the social media radar in Australia, and I know my audience is global, but so you let's go through an example. You write a blog post, call it 300-400 word blog post. Do you then have someone turn that into a slide deck in PowerPoint and upload to SlideShare and embed that into the blog?
Actually, I'll give you an example because it just happened. Cool. So we had one of our guest writers, Roger Parker, wrote a fantastic post on the 12 months of SlideShare. And it was incredibly successful, shared all over the internet. And we're like, wow, this would actually be a really good SlideShare post for that. So what we were doing is we take those 12 months, we create highly visual, we cut that blog post down into more bullet point type scenarios with headlines and really heavy calls to action for what they need to do. 12 slides. We're working on that now. It'll be up in a couple days, and then we'll put that on SlideShare for additional distribution, and then link that back again to the blog post. For those people that don't know, SlideShare is the YouTube for PowerPoint presentations, is the easiest way to think about it. But what's amazing is there's 85 million people every month going to SlideShare. People are actively looking for slideshows. I know people are like, are you kidding me? Yes, absolutely. All right. And the other thing is that SlideShare gets a lot of traction and a lot of ranking with Google. So if you don't have a lot of credibility in Google, you could actually put something on SlideShare, and I call it backdooring search results. So if you can't get them yourself, you could actually put a slideshow, slide presentation, something educational, helpful onto SlideShare, and then you could actually get found that way and then backdoor that into your website.
It's funny, the SlideShare thing. Part of me loves it, and I've got a lot of slide decks sitting on my MacBook and in Dropbox. But those slide decks of mine really they rely on me to be speaking to them, and so if because a lot of my slides are either a picture or, one word, 2 words, 3 words. So how do you flip that? Do you have to then design the slides so that they live and die by their own sword?
Look, I'm like you too. Like when I go out and do a presentation, if somebody says, Joe, can I have your presentation? I'll throw it up on my personal SlideShare so they can get that presentation. And you're absolutely right. Half of my slides are pictures only. They make no sense to anyone. So, but on our CMI, our corporate SlideShare page, we're very deliberate about how we're going to put that up there. We've got to make sure that every slide that's up there tells a story in and of itself. So if I'm you, I'm going to say, look, this 40 slide presentation that I gave at the university, that's not going to work. I'm going to cut this down to 15 to 20, and I'm going to tell a story around that. So it might take an extra hour to 2 hours of work, but it's well worth it because that'll then tell the story for you, and they don't necessarily have to have you there.
Right. So you all of a sudden, you're not creating a slide deck for a keynote. You're creating a slide deck for SlideShare that tells the story within the boundaries of each slide.
Exactly, and I would probably separate it. I would probably say that the presentations that you do with PowerPoint or Keynote have nothing to do with SlideShare. I would look at SlideShare more like a YouTube, like, are you going to tell a story in this channel? Think about it that way, and it's driven home a ton of business for us directly. And I think SlideShare is a sleeping giant. It's owned by LinkedIn. So if you're looking at what's a new channel that I need to be driving into, I would look at SlideShare now.
Yeah, I agree. It's been around a while, and it's kind of on that secondary radar for me, but it is a good one. Joe, a question on the spot, but does any small business come to mind for you right now? When I say small, bricks and mortar type business, a vet, a dentist, a chiropractor, who is just using content marketing so beautifully?
Well, I mean, I can give you a couple different kinds, but I'll give you, if you go to conditionedair.com, very simply, this is nothing outlandish. She started a blog back in 2010. Theo Etzel's the owner of that Conditioned Air, is a heating and air conditioning company. Mm-hmm. They install air conditioning units for other businesses and consumers, and was doing a really good job branding and everything else, and said, look, what's this whole social media thing? And we talked about the idea that you really needed to have a message, a story. So what Theo did is twice a week is created a helpful post about, how you can save energy in Southwest Florida, mm-hmm. How you can, when you need to change your filters and why, what's a programmable thermostat, and did all that. And within about 6-9 months, because when you first start a blog, you get radio silence. It takes a while, but once you get going, and now he sees thousands of people that are coming to his site that never would have been there before. He gets thousands of people saying, hey, I want more input from you. They're filling out contact forms, and they're getting there because they're typing in things in Google, and they're seeing content on social media about helpful tips around HVAC. And if they weren't creating that original blog content, they'd never get to that site at all.
Just digging deeper on that, because I get that. That's just a smart example of a small business, a heating and air conditioning business, creating really useful content for their prospects to find. And if they find it, they and consume it, they go, these guys know a lot about heating and air conditioning. I trust them. I'm going to inquire. I'm going to ring them. I'm going to email them. I'm going to walk into their shop. I get that. Are they doing anything below that in terms of search engine optimization, getting the metadata right, getting the page description, the URL? Because at that point, that's where I could see a lot of small business owners going, okay, that is now too hard.
Well, I think that yes and no, but I mean, from that example, I would use us. I mean, so let me give you an example of just my business, because I think it's a good story. 2007, it was just me. It was just me blogging every day, blogging about what I thought was important around our business objectives and around what the customer wanted. And I was proofing, I was doing the whole thing myself. Now today, when I do a blog post, which is, I don't blog every day now. Now I blog once a week, because you can change your velocity once you get to a certain point. So I blog once a week, and that blog goes to our editorial manager. She reads it over, she edits that. That goes to a proofreader, then to make sure that it's looking good on WordPress. Then we have an SEO person that looks at that and makes sure, is that title the right title? Is the metadata right? All those things. And by the way, those are all outsourced functions. Those are people that don't necessarily work for us, but they all do their part. And we're a small business. There's not many businesses out there that couldn't afford kind of what we're looking at. It's just, if you look at the process and what you're good at and what you're not good at, fill in the gaps with talent that's available right now that you can find. And it's really, really worked for us. Our search engine traction right now is up about 20% every month in and month out, just because we're doing those little things with that content now.
I love that. It plays into this whole concept I talk about of surrounding yourself with a virtual marketing team. And, the world of outsourcing. I mean, anyone listening to this, it's not about finding someone in the same suburb, the same city, the same state, even the same country. It's about finding A players somewhere in the world. And that process that you just described plays right into that, Joe. It leads into my almost my last question. You've got this whole, at the moment, listeners are going, I get it. I love it. I'm excited. I want to become a content marketing. I want to stop a content marketing marketer. I want to stop some of my advertising dough and put it into content marketing. But time is just, and it's to me, it's an excuse. You've got to find that either you do it or you don't. But any tips on how you make content marketing a comfortable part of what is already a busy week for a small business owner?
It's you and I, we both run into this question all the time. And unfortunately, I can talk until I'm blue in the face, and somebody doesn't get it until they see something positive happen. They actually need to see it working. And the problem is that a lot of these people will get into it, and in 2-3 months they'll say, hey, we haven't seen anything, and they're done. They're like, I don't know, this doesn't work for me. They just didn't give it the amount of time. I always say you got to start a little pilot program. You've got to commit to the program for at least 6 months. And just like a television show has a pilot, you need to do a pilot too. You have to say, here's our goals. Here's what we're going to do. Here's the strategy. And we're going to consistently do this over 6 months. And here's the metrics we're going to follow. And if you do that, you will see results. But the problem is most people don't get to that 6 month mark. They actually stop. Now, from that standpoint, Tim, I would just say, look, you don't see it coming. You might be in an industry that maybe isn't social media savvy, or maybe you think your customers are different. This thing is coming like a freight train, and you better, out of fear alone, be paying attention, because if you're not on this, you are going to get passed. You are not going to get found, or you're going to have to spend a ton of money doing things you don't want to do to get attention that are not going to pay off for you in the long run. I mean, I have never seen anything move as fast as this industry is moving. We're about 2 years ahead of where I thought it was going to be, and it moves faster every day. I just now that more than 50% of the world has a smartphone in their pocket now. I mean, they've got a content device with them at all times. They have the world of answers in their hands, and if you're not there, they're going to go somewhere else. You don't have a choice today.
I so agree. I get excited and nervous and scared when you talk like that, but it's so true. And Don't miss the boat, listeners. And when you're putting the criteria together, when you do commit to that 3 to 6 month content marketing strategy, and when you do put that list, that measurement criteria together about, it might be search engine rankings, it might be calls, it might be whatever it is. One of the things I love about creating content is the fact that I can now get a phone call from a prospect, Joe, and they might be asking me about a particular, it might be asking me about whatever form of small business marketing it is. And generally, I've now got a piece of content, whether it be a blog or a white paper or an interview or whatever it is, or a video. I'll say, you know what? Can I send you a link to an interview I did on that exact topic? And that alone is so powerful.
I love it. What you've done is you've built it into the culture of your organization.
Yeah.
And that's what if you think about the way that we're headed, this is what companies will be doing. Most of what, that's why brands over here in the States, they're hiring tons of journalists and editors. They understand that we need to be telling better stories. And this is new right now, but in a couple of years, this won't be new anymore. And we'll be like, oh my gosh, what the heck is happening? So I think that you're taking the storytelling mentality, the sharing mentality into your organization, and we've got to figure out a way to get that in there. So if you are the CEOs listening, if you're a CEO, if you're an owner, you can do something about it. It starts from the top down. But if you're not, if you are a marketing manager in a small company, then you need to focus on small wins that you can show metrics to and then take them up and say, look what we did.
Yeah. This is a bit of a self-centered question to finish, Joe. Don't normally do this, but let's talk podcasting. Do you like podcasting? I don't think you guys podcast. Why not?
No, actually, we don't. No, we don't. We leverage a lot of partners that do. Mm-hmm. It's funny. It's kind of one of those things where we've got Andrew Davis, good friend of mine, partner with CMI. He does a lot of blogging. We have a number of other bloggers that we work with that I like to partner with. We get our expertise on there. I do a lot of bloggings or podcasts like this. But I think that what it proves is you can be successful and you don't need to be into everything. We don't do a lot of videos, by the way. We do very few of them. We just want to make, my goal right now is to make sure that our content is accessible in mobile format wherever our customers are at. And that's what a lot of small businesses don't think about, how your content's being engaged in on a mobile device. But I love podcasts. I think the iOS change that's happened recently, that's amazing what's happened. And we've seen this rebirth of podcasts. It seems like everybody's starting a podcast. I'm sure you see it all the time now.
Big time. And you know what, I think that's such reassuring point that you just made, which is here you are, you got the Content Marketing Institute. It's getting great traction in the world of content marketing, and you focus on blogging with a secondary into SlideShare. Me, I've got the #1 marketing show in the country, and I focus on podcasting. I'm not out there trying to do video marketing and blogging and book writing. I slowly do. I do blog every now and then. I do a video every now and then, but it's about doing one thing really well and not 10 things poorly. Joe,
absolutely.
It has been an absolute pleasure to have you. Now, you guys are coming to Australia. That's exciting. I'm hoping to make. You're going to have the Content Marketing Institute is holding an event in Sydney. Now, podcasting is one of those kind of people could be listening to this show in a year's time. So, but I will put in the show notes the dates, and I will make comment after this interview's over. Unless you know the dates off the top of your head, Joe, that you're going to be in Sydney.
Well, we're going to be in Sydney March 4th, 5th, and 6th. And the other thing is, if you listen to this after the fact, we're going to be back every March, hopefully. And we're going to do it again and again because there's a big need for content marketing in Australia.
Yeah, absolutely. And my aim is just a little goal. I want to be invited to speak at next year's Content Marketing Institute in Sydney.
I think we're going to need a session on podcasting.
I can hear it. I can feel it. Absolutely. In fact, we're going to do a podcast live from stage. It'll be if you haven't got one by then already, then we are going to do the first episode of the Content Marketing Institute's podcast live on stage in Sydney in 2014.
I love it. Let's do it. Put it on paper. Let's do it.
Love it, Joe. Thanks so much for sharing. It was absolute gold. And contentmarketinginstitute.com is Joe's business, and he's a good guy. Thanks, Joe.
Appreciate it.
Marketing gold right there. Gosh, Joe had lots to share. There were times when I just felt, I think I might have said it during the interview, I was talking to myself because it's a lot of that stuff I've either been sharing on my deep dive mastermind, or I've been talking about in my keynotes, or just thinking about generally for my marketing of my own business. We live in exciting times. small business owners out there. We really do. There has never, ever been a better time to market a small business, and you just heard why. Some learnings from the fireside chat I had with Joe. Number one, content marketing is a marathon, not a sprint. If you're looking for results tomorrow, don't worry about content marketing. Go and run an ad. But commit to content marketing and you will see results, just like I am, having been a content producer now for a number of years with my podcast and my blog. Pull, don't push. Number two, learning takeaway. Pull, don't push means pull people towards you by showing that you know a lot of things about the industry in which you operate. And you do. That's why you're in there. Push meaning run advertising, sales-based messages. There's a role for both, but content marketing is, I think, magnet. It pulls people towards you. Number three, learning, act like a publisher. I love that. Take on that publisher's mindset. What do publishers do? They publish useful, sometimes entertaining, sometimes challenging, sometimes opinionated information. Again, to pull people towards them. Number four takeaway, what's your editorial mission? What a great question. What is your editorial mission? If you can identify that, as I said, mine is small business marketing, tips and tricks. That's my editorial mission. Everything I create is all about helping you build a better marketing strategy to grow your business. So what's your editorial mission? Whack it in the show notes if you know what it is. I'd love to hear it. And number five takeaway, looks like SlideShare is a bit of a sleeping giant. I've one of those social media channels that's just kind of on my secondary level. I upload some of my slide decks there, but I don't spend a lot of time on SlideShare. I think I should. It's a bit like Pinterest, sleeping giants. We need to be there, guys. More kind of time. I know. Maybe it's time you got a VA. But we need to be aware of these things. That's why Small Business Big Marketing is here, to draw them to your attention. We don't need to be on all the social media channels, don't get me wrong, but it's good to be aware of them. So there's 5 key takeaways from my chat with Joe. What are yours? I'd love to hear them. Go to the show notes at smallbusinessbigmarketing.com and look for episode 125 and leave me your thoughts. I would love to know them. Okay. A few things just before we finish. Next week's interview, Olivia Fox, who is a world-leading expert on using charisma as a marketing strategy. Huh? Yeah, I know. Use charisma as a marketing strategy. Really interesting chat with her. Olivia explains how we can do that, how us small business owners can flick on the charisma switch and attract people towards us. Again, a bit like content marketing, the attractor factor. I have launched a product called Spotlight, and that is found at smallbusinessbigmarketing.com/spotlight. It's where I do a dedicated show on your business. Nothing else. No one else gets to hear it except you. And you can find all that out about that at smallbusinessbigmarketing.com/spotlight. Thanks, Net Registry, for bringing this show to us, for making it possible. Guys, get your online marketing sorted at netregistry.com.au. Love your work. Love your marketing. Have a great week and see you next time. Bye for now.
You've been listening to the Small Business Big Marketing Show with Tim Reid. Want more marketing goodness? Then visit smallbusinessbigmarketing.com.